Back in January, Elon Musk and Nigel Farage seemed in lockstep with one another, with Musk claiming that only reform can save Britain and that it's time for reform. However, days after this show of support, Farage and Musk fell out dramatically, and Musk called for Farage to step down as leader of the party. Now, Musk has apparently started looking for new politicians in the UK to champion, and has seemingly landed on former Farage allies Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib, who have set up their own political outlets, called Restore Britain and Advance UK respectively. So in this video, we're going to look at whether the support of the world's richest man would really give either organisation a chance, and ask if either could usurp Farage as the dominant figure of the right of British politics. Never miss an episode and always feel in the loop by subscribing and ringing the bell. Now, before we properly get into it, a lot of this story dates back to January, back when the Musk-Farage split began. We released a video explaining this in detail, and the link is down below. But the TLDR here is that the proximate cause of the falling out was Farage's refusal to align himself with the far-right agitator Stephen Yaxley Lennon, aka Tommy Robinson. For anyone that's followed Farage's career, this should be relatively unsurprising. One of the key reasons that Farage has managed to succeed in politics is because he's managed to champion causes that matter to those on the right of British politics, such as withdrawal from the European Union and further restrictions on immigration, for instance, while also rejecting positions and figures associated with the far right. Farage has even argued in the past that the success of his United Kingdom Independence Party, or UKIP, in the early 2010s contributed to the downfall of the more extremist outfits like the British National Party, or BNP, with Farage going as far as to claim that he had done more than anyone else to defeat the far right in Britain. Throughout the following decade and a half, Farage continued to rise in popularity, all while continuing to blacklist individuals and opinions of the far right from his political organisations. In particular, he has always ensured that Tommy Robinson, a former member of the BNP and founder of the far-right English Defence League, was never let anywhere near UKIP, the Brexit Party, or Reform UK. Similarly, Farage had actually previously rejected the idea of mass deportations in the UK. In September last year, Farage was asked by GB News whether he supported mass deportations, and Farage said, No, I'm not going to get dragged down the route of mass deportations or anything like that, adding that mass deportations were a political impossibility. Additionally, Farage had told a fellow Reform MP, Rupert Lowe, that he shouldn't use the phrase mass deportation in a speech, as it was a very grave, dark, and dangerous use of language. Clearly, this frustrated Lowe, and following his departure from Reform UK, Lowe established his own political organisation called Restore Britain. One of the commitments of the group was to mass deportations, and the organisation exists as a further right alternative to Reform UK. Similarly, Ben Habib, a former Farage ally, also left Reform and established his own party called Advance UK. Like Restore Britain, Advance UK advocates for mass deportations and has even attracted the support of Tommy Robinson. Habib, unlike Farage, welcomed Robinson's support. Both of these organisations essentially exist as a result of Farage's reluctance to court figures of the far right. Now, it is worth noting here that a couple of weeks ago, Farage did U-turn on deportation and promised that, if elected, he would deport more than 600,000 immigrants from the UK over 5 years. However, both Lowe and Habib criticised it for not going far enough. In particular, they take issue with some of the caveats Farage has to his plan, including exempting women and children. Lowe explained that the plan is, quote, nowhere near enough. Even on deporting illegals, it's just not enough. It's weak. They all must go, not some, all. Meanwhile, Habib explained that Reform's deportation policy amounts to stupidity. The point we're making here is that both of these parties have tried to outflank Farage from the right. This is exactly the sort of party that Musk has been pushing for, and as a result, both Lowe and Habib have been essentially fighting for the billionaire's attention. Musk has said that he would support Lowe's rape gang inquiry, although so far this seems to be the limit of his support. When it comes to Habib, Musk's support has been more substantial. Musk has stated that Advance UK will actually drive change. Farage is weak sauce who will do nothing. And he's explicitly called for people to join Advance UK to save Britain. The Financial Times claims that Habib and Musk have spoken several times since January and have discussed their shared concerns about mass migration, the need for a new political force in the West, and anger about diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives in the UK and US. Since Musk endorsed Habib's Advance UK, their membership has gone from 3,000 to 25,000 and has received £320,000 in donations. Habib promised that once the party had reached 30,000 members, he would put £100,000 of his own money in the party. With Musk now clearly interested in the party, there's a real chance that he could put some money in too. Prior to his falling out with Farage, there were rumours that Musk was going to donate as much as £100 million to Reform, money that could, at least hypothetically, now be distributed to Advance UK. The question is, though, would the British public be receptive to a party to the right of Reform UK, like Advance UK? Well, unsurprisingly, Habib thinks there is, and that very quickly his party will get to 5% in the polls with the ultimate aim of replacing Reform. But, well, there are reasons to be sceptical. For starters, there's not much appetite for a party to the right of Reform. In a YouGov poll from the end of January, for instance, only 1% of potential Reform voters said that their main reservation with actually voting for Reform would be that they're not right-wing enough, compared to 7% who said that they are too right-wing. But perhaps more importantly, Nigel Farage is, according to the most recent YouGov polling, quite literally the best-known politician in the UK, whereas neither Habib nor Lowe have any real public profile outside of X. In fact, the only polling we could find on either of them was a JL Partners poll that found that 86% of the public and 71% of Reform voters didn't recognise Rupert Lowe. Furthermore, even if they do make some ground in the polls, this might actually help Farage. In distancing himself from more radical parties like Advance UK, Farage could burnish his appeal with more moderate voters, with Advance UK or Restore Britain acting as something of a reputational shield for Farage and Reform. Now, when you're diving into complicated topics such as this, it's quite easy to get caught up in what you know, without even missing a beat. But what about the stories you don't see? Or what happens when the stories you do see are purposefully leaving out information to try and sway your thinking? Thankfully, our sponsor this week, Ground News, are experts at helping with just that. Ground News is a website and app that collects thousands of articles from across the world and puts them all in one place for you to easily compare how the news is being covered by different outlets online. For each and every story, you can see the number of sources reporting on it, as well as the political bias, factuality, and ownership of said sources. For example, if we take this story about Zia Yusuf rejoining Reform UK 2 days after quitting, you can see that there are 55 sources reporting on it, with 12 of them coming from the left and 10 of them coming from the right. You can even compare the headlines to see what either side is saying, with the left framing it as emblematic of party chaos and instability, and the right emphasising Nigel Farage's leadership and sizable electoral gains. That's not all though. Ground News also has tons of super handy features. Our personal favourite is their blind spot feed. Here, you can find stories that have been disproportionately covered by one side of the political spectrum, helping you challenge your perspective on someone else's media reality. Here at TLDR, we're passionate about helping you understand how bias may affect the media you consume, something Ground News also firmly believes in. Because of this, we're offering 40% off the Unlimited Access Vantage Plan subscription by using the link in the description or scanning the QR code on screen. You can only access this discount through our link, so make sure you go to ground.news/TLDR or click the link in the description to get started today.